Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. So in 2 more days, it's gonna be 8 months since I started making bismuth art. And I really fell in love with it. Bismuth is one of those things where for me it was love at first sight, and I never really let go of it. And I love bismuth for the art and for how rare it is and how precious it is. But over the last 2 months, I discovered there's another resource that is much more precious than bismuth, and that is our time, especially in regards to work-life balance. And I thought I would make a video to talk about the times where my time was extremely precious. So one thing I discovered is that I wasn't sleeping enough. I don't think 8 hours a night is enough. I think 10 hours is way better, especially if you can sleep in 2 segments, 5 hours and then another. I usually sleep 5. I get up to do some things, and then I sleep another 5. That's the best. It doesn't really jive well with my schedule some of the times, but when I can get away with it, sleep schedules like that really help with me. And when I say that how precious it is, I mean it. I literally get a return on investment on it. What do I mean by that? When I'm well rested and I don't make as many mistakes, I don't have to repeat the same task over and over and over again. To give you an idea, I recently couldn't find my passport. You know, over the last 3 years, I don't think I need to tell you, we haven't had the privilege of using our passports very much over the last 3 years, so I've been kind of losing track where I put it. I was getting ready to submit a paper to a conference, and I didn't want to go to that conference anyway because I really enjoyed my sleep. I don't want to travel halfway around the world where I'll have jet lag and have things to attend to, right? I'd rather be using my vacation time to go somewhere where I could sleep. And even if I have to sleep out of my car, right? Like, for example, when I go to Yosemite, I can't really afford the hotels here. I sleep in my car. Even that is preferable than cramming a conference. It really is nowadays for me. So I almost didn't want to look for my passport. I finally found it. What had happened was, you guys may remember, not long ago I was in Mexico, and the passport, I put it in my pocket, and it kind of got all wrinkled up. And to help flatten it, I placed it. I had a box that had a 40-pound bar of bismuth, and I placed the passport under the bar, and I forgot about it. And that's the kind of nonsense that I run into when I'm sleep deprived. I do things and don't even remember what I did. And so when I sleep well, I literally get a return on my time. The problem is a lot of times I don't get the privilege of investing. It takes time to make time, right? And unfortunately, a lot of times I don't have the time to invest in good sleep. So for example, at the last job I was working at a tutoring center, I was working 6 days a week at the beginning, making a lot of mistakes. You know, I really despise, now that I've left the job, I'm going to talk a little bit more freely about it. My boss sometimes watches too closely. If he would just step away and let me handle it and not allow me to freely express myself, I could tutor a whole lot better. But he watches like a hawk. So for example, he sometimes criticizes that I give too many personal details on my examples, but that's what the kids love. To give you an idea of how badly he makes the job heavy-handed, I was trying to take the day off early on Valentine's Day to go to my favorite restaurant. And what's really upsetting is that he scheduled me for some students from 2 to 6 and then one student from 7 to 8. That's really fucking annoying because for an extra hour of work I have to give up like 2 hours of my life, right? So the day before Valentine's Day, I asked the student if he would mind rescheduling. I mean, if he really needed it, yeah, I would do it. And that my boss was really upset, ran to he said, "Can I talk to you for a second?" He took me to a different area to tell me not to talk to the students like that. And actually, the student was very understanding, and that's the kind of problem I run into. Obviously, I don't think my boss was looking out for the student. He wanted to control me for whatever personal agenda, right? This wasn't about serving the student. If it really were about serving the student, wouldn't it be better if the student and I beat at the same wavelength, right? Okay, that's the kind of trouble I run into, and no work-life balance. They're making a lot of mistakes, and obviously I'm always worried about what my boss is going to hear next, and it really put a big constraint over my work, and that's why I left. We had a huge falling out, actually. I notice how I need to pay attention to when I'm eating. And if I eat without distraction, I eat a whole lot healthier, a whole lot less. I get full a lot faster. I find it's very helpful to eat alone. Why? 2 reasons. One, I don't have to worry about table manners. Not that I dislike table manners, but it adds a layer of thought to my food and detracts from me paying attention to my body. Yes, it should come naturally, but you know what? It's still some amount of memory that you have to use, right? And if I don't have to pay attention to table manners, not that I'm going to eat like a pig, it allows me to focus in on my body and allows me to have better control over my eating. Now, the problem is that I don't need to tell you how short lunch breaks here in the United States are. If I leave my office to go eat, it consumes a big chunk of my lunch break. Fortunately, my colleagues are very understanding. I told my colleagues, because food is such a tricky situation for me, I would prefer to eat alone. If there are other things you want to discuss, maybe after work is a better time. And they totally understood it, so that's good. The other thing is that when you're talking to your colleagues, you got to remember everything you say to your colleagues can and will be used against you, or it could be at least. And so now, not only are you watching your table manners, you're watching your mouth, what you're saying. It really detracts from the attention you give to your food, and I find it very easy to accidentally overeat. And the telltale sign that you've overeaten is you go from starving to like, oh my god, I'm stuffed, within like a nanosecond, right? That's a good sign that you weren't paying attention to your food, right? Unfortunately. Anyways, if I had any suggestions in general to HR, I would say don't restrict. Don't have a policy that employees are not allowed to eat at their desk. Some people really need to listen to their bodies. If their bodies call out for food at 2 in the afternoon and they can't get to it, that really puts a big constraint to how these people can function in terms of their eating lives. I think a lot of binge eating disorders are caused by societal constraints on where and when we can eat, right? As much as possible, try not to schedule things, right? If something doesn't have to happen at a certain time, let it be. Right. Also, don't ask as much as possible. If one of your employees wants to go on vacation, wants to get off the office on time, or maybe wants to leave early one day, I mean, keep it at that. Right. Don't ask why. Right. Some people have personal issues that they might not be comfortable discussing. Right. Imagine it's a health-related issue, might be a religious matter. It might be a family matter that they're not comfortable talking about. It might be a hobby or a love life that they're not comfortable talking about, right? Just treat it like trust your employees to make those personal calls, right? This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.